If there's one thing I have learned over the years watching movies, it's that I have grown increasingly intolerant of formulaic, predictable movies. Following the strict paradigm of setup, follow-through, and wrap-up gets boring. Thank Godzilla for Tarantino. Here's your damn rant show, folks. Greetings, and welcome to Film Rants, the only show brave enough to say that, well, maybe Marcellus Wallace does look a little bit like a bitch to us, but we're still not going to fuck him like one. I'm your host, E. Adam Thomas, and tonight we'll be looking at Quentin Tarantino's most famous film, Pulp Fiction. The film stars Johann Travolta, Bruce Willis, Samuel L. Jackson, and Uma Thurman, and is probably one of the strangest films ever made. Unlike Reservoir Dogs, which did a sort of flashback thing, even though the basic story progresses in a predominantly linear fashion, this film jumps all over the place like an ADD kid in a bouncy castle full of shiny objects and squirrels. The first scene in the film sets up the last scene in the film, and the technical end of the film occurs almost half an hour before the end of the film. It sounds on the surface like a confusing mess that someone like Ed Wood would have thought up. But it works. Seriously, it really fucking works. There are four main stories going on here, all intertwined with one another, circulating to one degree or another over a sophisticated crime boss named Marcellus Wallace, played by Ving Rhames. He's a tough-ass son of a bitch who is cool as shit, and doesn't appear to get riled by much of anything. Willis plays a down-on-his-luck boxer named Butch who has made a deal with the devil, so to speak, agreeing to accept a huge payoff from Wallace to throw a fight. Travolta and Jackson are golden as a pair of Wallace's henchmen, whose primary assignment is to procure a mysterious briefcase filled with, well, God, I don't know. Maybe it's the same shit that was in the trunk of the car in Repo Man. You know, the Emilio Estevez movie. Never heard of it? Well, the fuck, that's why you have me. Go look for it. It also has Harry Dean Stanton, and it's one of the best fucking movies on the goddamn planet. Well, okay, not really, but it's fucking badass. Especially if you're watching it with your buddies while passing the Dutchie. Anyway, back to Pulp Fiction. Pulp Fiction is kind of like that too, but a lot darker and more intense. Here's the thing that pisses me off, and I will admit that I'm just as guilty of this kind of thing myself, But it's the fucking douchebags that don't like it just because it is so non-linear. I've seen numerous blogs and threads where people have ripped the film for this and have been arrogant enough to even try to re-edit the film in a linear fashion. Look, Tarantino's a fucking artist, and this is the film he wanted to make. If I made a film, I wouldn't want a bunch of idiotic fuckholes ripping it apart and re-editing it though any way they wanted to. I mean, for fuck's sake, film is probably the most malleable art form known to man, with unlimited possibilities in visual and oral composition, but 99.999% of the film viewing populace, especially the American film viewing populace, have virtually no appreciation or tolerance for anything more inventive than a fucking flashback. It's people like you that are dooming great expressionist films like Nosferatu and The Metropolis to egregious levels of obscurity, while screaming for more Fast and Furious sequels. It's actually shocking to me that the same population that has some of the highest per capita use of illegal hallucinogenic narcotics can't handle a movie that isn't laid out in a pedantic, mundane chronology that even a fucking goldfish could comprehend. What the fuck is the point of even making movies? What I'm trying to say here is that most folks don't appreciate the art of filmmaking. They just want an easy-to-digest piece of shit that won't keep them awake nights trying to figure out what they just watch. Why bother making steak Milanese when you're cooking for somebody who just wants a double cheeseburger and fries? Nonetheless, as long as we have artists like Tarantino, Kevin Smith, David Lynch and others of their like in the world, maybe there's still hope for humanity after all. If I have anything negative to say about Pulp Fiction itself, it has to be Tarantino's own acting turn in the film. As the douchey suburban coffee snob whose job is not to store the corpses of deceased African Americans. Seriously, this role would have been so much better in the hands of somebody like Steve Buscemi, who was relegated in this film to playing a fake Buddy Holly waiter at Jack Rabbit Slim's. I mean, I've seen Quentin pull off some good character scenes, like Warren, the bar owner in Death Proof. But in this role, he just comes off as a guy who wanted to be in the movie, and could, because he's the fucking director. And he says so. I'm sorry, but if you, as the director, are going to cast yourself in a speaking role in a film, you have a responsibility not to be the worst actor in said fucking film. It just pisses off your viewers and your fellow actors. No offense, Q-Man, but it wouldn't hurt to watch your own fucking dailies once in a while, okay? He's not a bad actor. That's not what I'm saying. He's good when somebody else is directing. But in his own shit, more often than not, he phones the shit in. He just needs to stay the fuck behind the camera in his own movies for the most part. As for the rantometer for Pulp Fiction, artistic gets a 5, coolness gets a 5, and originality also gets a 5. Tarantino's shitty performance isn't a big enough chunk of the film to warrant even half a blade, so that gives Pulp Fiction a fucking perfect score of 15. It is seriously one of my favorite films of all time, hands down. I never get tired of watching it. Now, this is the part of the show where I usually tell you to sound off, positively or negatively, about the movie, my rant, the fact that I fucking use the word fuck too much. Whatever the fuck. You know, this is the internet, okay? It's all interactive and shit, so here's my idea. I just want one of you out there, just one of you, to lay into me. Tell me what a fucking jerkwad I am for blasting your favorite movie, or glorifying some steaming pile of dung that you think should have been burned long ago, and I'll read your shit on the show. Do your worst! I fucking dare you. You know the hashtag. You know the email address. Lay one on me, bro. Phoenix Comic-Con is coming up, so in honor of that, through the month of May, we'll be doing film versus film episodes, starting with a Batman versus Superman episode. Not the actual Batman versus Superman movie because it hasn't come out yet. Where I review the original Christopher Reeve Superman film and the original Michael Keaton Batman film and decide which one's better. I may also have some special guests in the episodes, primarily to argue with me like a bunch of Gene Siskel's on mescaline. That should be fun. See you next week, Palooka. Angry Men Reviews. Many fucks said, no fucks given.
This is a tasty burger.